And welcome back to another episode of Lifting Life and Everything in Between. I'm Kevin, this is Billy,
Hello.
and today, what are we talking about?
Today I want to ask you, how did you transition from your pre-lifting diet to your post-lifting diet? So what were you eating before you started going to the gym? How often were you eating a day? And what kind of foods did you like to consume?
Wow, I haven't thought about that for a very, very, very long time. Very long time. I'm gonna need a minute, but
I can kick us off.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead. You
so
go
after
first.
high school, we had a Hungry Jack's near us that was very accessible that we like to go to. And for those of you that don't know, it's similar to any burger fast food chain.
Burger King.
Yeah. So aside from that, I think I ate a lot of Subway. That was my uni days. Enjoyed my frozen meat pies. And frozen pizzas too, actually, now that I think about it. Before I started lifting though, meals are pretty consistently breakfast, lunch, after school snack, and then dinner. For breakfast I would have cereal, something easy, something quick. For lunch it would be a sandwich. After school snack would be our Burger King, Hungry Jack's, something junk. And dinner is rice with the family.
Yeah. Okay. Alright, so pre-lifting, I was pretty much the same. Although I would skip meals. Sometimes lunch would be a sandwich, breakfast. Oh, I don't think I had breakfast. I just had, lunch as a
Skip the most
sandwich,
important.
maybe chips, like crisp. Oh, well, to be fair, people have been saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but now with intermittent fasting, everyone's skipping breakfast.
Yeah. I'm
But
doing that now.
but anyways, we digress. I would have lunch as a sandwich, maybe dinner. I would have whatever mum's cooking, rice with some protein, and that's pretty much it. As far as fast food goes, it was very accessible. Even though I didn't know how much it cost, I thought it was so cheap. I would have Subway, Hungry Jack's. I remember when I was year 12, so during our HSC year, for audiences that don't know, the HSC year, that's where you just do a variety of tests in different subjects that you sign up for, just so you can get into uni to a degree that you want to do. During those testing times, we would be at home, and that was one of the first times I was out of routine in terms of I didn't have to wake up at a certain time. I didn't have to go to school at a certain time. I was just at home, studying at home. That's when I remember my diet quite clearly, because parents weren't at home, so they would give me money to get whatever I want. And I would be eating hot dogs, the ones where you just boil up. They were good. I still remember the taste right now. Skinless Frankfurts on a baguette with tomato sauce. Multiple a day. What else would I have? I had a Chinese cuisine, Asian cuisine restaurant nearby that I would go order from a lot. Needless to say, my diet was pretty shit, and that carried on to my uni years where I would just eat out. My uni years were the worst, where it was constant eating out, and especially after being granted kind of
Like
a
an
grant,
adult pass.
a grant, I guess. I mean, after I finished year 12, I've had access to my bank account, my full bank account, which at the time it was a lot of money for an irresponsible 18-year-old that I spent a lot on food. So I would be eating out 4 times a day. Macca's, Hungry Jack's, you name it. Subway, even going to restaurants.
And just constantly
Yeah,
sharing.
and constantly paying for others as well. That's poor financial decision that we'll get into later. Like just 4 financial choices that's off topic. And yeah, I think my eating habits carried on till then. Like that's how it develops. Like
Yeah.
my bad eating habits.
Yeah. From there, when we started lifting, one of the first eating methods or philosophies, if you want to call it that we found was dirty bulking. And it gave us the freedom to eat whatever we wanted. So we just found the cheapest fast foods. We thought $5 Domino's pizzas was one of the cheapest ways to get the most calories for your for your dollar.
Yeah, to be fair, sorry to interrupt, but back then I don't think it was dirty bulking. We didn't even know what bulking was. We just knew we got in the gym, we're building muscle, it's time to get big, so we had to eat big.
Just eat as much as possible.
Yeah, and back then you're completely right. Where pizzas, $5 pizzas from Domino's, that was the cheapest bang for your buck. It was the best bang for your buck. Sorry. And keep in mind, back then it was only cheaper Tuesdays.
Yeah.
You only could get $5 pizzas on Tuesdays.
Yeah. And we would do that. We would buy enough pizzas for the next 3 days, Tuesday through to Thursday or something like
Try
that.
5 days maybe.
Yeah, something like that. And we would leave it out on the counter. It wasn't good. Anyhow, from then on, how did we start eating healthier foods and preparing our own meals? Because I don't remember the transition. Not too well anyways.
Well, my first experiences, although it didn't last long, it lasted for a good couple of months. I didn't do barely any research. I just knew that I can't keep eating pizza if I wanted to shred off some fat.
Yeah.
So, and for you guys that know, I do have some experience in cooking. And yeah, back in the day, I would be making lasagna, spag, tacos, whatnot. And those were great foods. Only if we knew how to portion control back then, I reckon we would have been set.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The lasagna and the pasta is definitely solid.
Yeah,
food choices.
they were nice too.
Just ate too much.
Yeah, just ate way too much. Anyways, my first experience with cutting was I knew I had to cut down on carbs. I just knew that. So I remember eating a lot of chicken with strings of spaghetti. I could count the amount of spaghetti that I was eating.
Right.
It was like probably 10 strings.
Yeah.
Sick. But that was my first experience of eating healthy, if you guys know what I mean.
Yeah. So we were still eating foods that tasted great. We weren't doing the religious, chicken, brown rice, and broccoli meals yet. That took a little bit longer down the track before we started getting into that. But spaghetti bolognese is definitely one of the tastiest and most basic meals to cook.
Oh, I didn't even have a bolognese, to be honest.
I just mince and
It was just
pasta.
It was chicken and pasta. That was my first experience of clean cutting,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
Yeah. And okay, so after that, at some point we've just found a couple of meals that that worked for us, I think. So for example, an oats meal in the morning with a few extras like blueberries and peanut butter. Sometimes with a bit of like half a scoop of protein powder as well, just for some extra flavor and protein. That works really well. That's something I look forward to every day, and that's something I can keep eating without getting bored of.
Mm.
So that's one example.
But just dialing it back, just from your story, it seems like you went from A to Z. But how did you find that oats meal?
Yeah.
Because I have a vivid recollection of how I started developing better eating habits.
Yeah. Well, it started with research, just looking into what kind of foods bodybuilders can eat to manipulate their weight, and oats happen to be one of those highly recommended foods because it's so cheap, it doesn't cost much, and it gives you the slow release energy that you're after for a morning meal.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm pretty sure it's low GI, so what that means is it just, like you said, slower release. It doesn't increase your blood sugar levels.
It doesn't give
high.
you a spike as
Yeah.
high,
As high,
so you don't crash.
yeah, so you don't crash. Completely right. So you just did the
Just started research.
bricks and mortar web search.
Yeah.
I'm gathering.
YouTube and blogs.
Yeah, fair enough. So my experience is now I hate social media. I don't have social media, but one thing I will give credit for is changing my lifestyle. So I would be on Instagram and there would be all these guys who would be shredded and I'm sitting over here, I'm wondering what the hell's going on. I train very hard. What's happening?
What are they doing differently?
Yeah, well, what are they doing differently? So I started asking questions, started reflecting on my own actions. What can I change? So that's where I kind of just found out about macronutrients. That's how I found out about fats, carbs, protein. How you should
Yes.
space it out, what that does to body recomposition. That led me down a deep rabbit hole of just researching where I was obsessed for a good couple months, but I still haven't been putting it to practice. Then one day, I still remember the day, I looked in the mirror, I didn't like what I was looking at. And
You're fat, right?
no, I just didn't like what I was looking at.
Okay.
I thought I could be better. Plus, at that time, I didn't have any other responsibilities.
Yeah.
I recently broke up with my ex-girlfriend, so I had all the time in the world.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what? If there is a time, now's the time. I remember that day, I reformulated my diet, went for a run. And I've never looked back since.
Yeah. You make a really good point about discovering macros and just what the hell protein, carbs, and fats are for. And I think, once we found that, once we realized that's how you kept track of your food and your consumption, you start looking at food in a different way.
Totally.
Yeah. There was a point that we both experienced where looking at a packet of chips or any kind of food, any meal, we would just be seeing numbers for the protein, carbs, and fat content.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd wager we'd be able to make pretty accurate estimates back then of everything.
Oh, yeah, still make accurate measurements now,
Yeah.
to be completely honest. I kind of do it with my clients now. But what I was going to ask was, is protein overrated?
Is it
What
overrated?
was your view of protein back then compared to what your understanding of protein now?
I'm more inclined to say that it's carbs and fats that are underrated, more so than protein being overrated.
Very interesting, and I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, people don't
That's
pay
very
enough
nice.
attention to those two macronutrients. We think it's all about the protein intake.
Yes, and that's where I'm saying, is it overrated?
Yeah, it very well could be. If it isn't your religious protein shake that you have to take post-workout, you might think, okay, I have to hit a certain amount of protein in my day. It could be realistically somewhere between 150 to 200 grams, let's say. And then very often we forget that the carbs and fats contribute to our overall calories.
Yeah,
And
for
in
sure.
fact, alcohol too. Alcohol also has calories.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys want a video with a deep dive in macronutrients, just let us know and we'll do that. But before that, let's just talk about how we view protein. So I agree with you, and this is going to be a rabbit hole conversation. So back then, when I viewed food, all I viewed was, does it have protein? bodybuilding, weight training, I need as much protein in me as I possibly can to build bigger muscles.
Yeah. And if it didn't have protein in it, what would you think about that meal?
I wouldn't eat it.
Yeah.
Or I would find a better alternative. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, back then I saw fried chicken, and I thought protein.
Good enough.
Yeah, good enough. Ignoring the fats, ignoring the carbs. Even when I was a little bit more educated, where I would eat, let's say, grilled chicken instead, I would be eating 400 grams of grilled chicken, which would equate to around what? Around 90 grams of protein. 80 to 90 grams of protein.
Yeah. And there's a good chance that our bodies just can't absorb.
That's
that
way
much
too much.
in one meal.
That's way too much.
Yeah.
For the average size human being, I think around 30 grams protein per meal.
Yeah. I'm willing to push that to 40 for more
maybe 40.
more developed, trainers. But and anywhere close to 80 or just over 50, 40 is way too much. And
Yeah,
completely
that's
unnecessary.
so silly because our muscles can't absorb all that. We can't. There's only a rate of repairing that the muscle can do.
Yeah.
There's just a certain speed, and that's what I mean by I really overrated protein. Yes, it is important. Yes, it is alright to meet a number every day, but back then it wasn't about meeting a number. It was about getting as much protein as possible in.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
true.
that.
That's true, and that's not how you should go about your calorie counting.
Well, to be fair,
The
you just
diet.
didn't know any better.
Yeah.
And the thing is, when you look at our diets back then, I would guess that our protein was the lowest macronutrient. The
Could
diet nowadays are very high in carbs, very high in fats,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you could be
low in
wrong.
protein.
Right.
And I think I'm going to go out on a limb and say that's the reason for our overweight society.
Yeah.
But that's a topic I'm not going to touch. Not today.
Not anymore.
So now to the fats and the carbs. I agree with you where it's underrated. However, I don't think it's because people don't count it and they're miscounting it. Why I said it's underrated originally was because when people are looking to cut down weight, they automatically think fats are bad, carbs are bad,
Yeah.
and they'll cut out both of them, or they'll minimize both of them as low as possible.
Yeah.
So your diet will just be high protein. Now, talk to me. What's the dangers of low fats? What's the dangers of low carbs?
Okay, so let's start with fats. Fats is an essential macronutrient that your body just needs for various functions. Just general hormone production.
Yeah,
and,
hormone.
and regular
It's for your joints.
cell recovery.
Yes. Everything.
Yeah, pretty much everything physiological in the body.
Yeah.
And to either consume unhealthy types of fats, processed fats, or just straight up cut out fats in your diet is quite detrimental because it's an essential nutrient that we have to consume. Carbs, on the other hand, not as essential. I'm sure a lot of you know there is such a thing as the keto diet, which is the no carb diet, and aside from that, a lot of people are on a low carb diet.
It depends on what your goals are, guys. Keto diet is definitely good for just mental clarity, mental functioning. That's what I've read. Now, I've been on keto for a brief period, maybe 2 months. Did I reap the rewards of the effect? Can't remember. I can't put a pulse to it. However, what I will say is I didn't do it 100% correctly because I think my fats were just saturated fats, some trans fats, as opposed to more monounsaturated, polyunsaturated. So I didn't eat enough AV, so on and so forth. So I wouldn't say I did 100% correctly. But me personally, I didn't feel the effects. But from the papers I've read and from believable sources, those are the pros. So if your goal is for pure mental clarity, mental functioning, go ahead. As far as physical exercise goes, I'm not too sure. I'm inclined to say if you're weightlifting, carbs are necessary to build muscle.
Yeah, in my experience on keto, I would say that is correct. I find that the carbs are more easily absorbed into the muscles than the ketones, which is the energy you would get from fat on the keto diet. It doesn't blow you up as much, it doesn't fill you out, and as far as weight gain goes or muscle growth and repair, it doesn't happen as effectively, which is a little bit counterintuitive because you think that protein is all you need for muscle repair, but as it turns out, carbs gives you the energy. It goes into the muscle cells so much more efficiently, and it fills you out.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think this brings us to the next topic, where to lose weight, guys, you can't beat the law of thermodynamics. If you want to lose weight, the calories in must be less than the calories out.
Yeah, and the difference between calories in and calories out is taken from your fat stores that are on your your body.
Yeah, that's right. And that's
from.
how you lose fat. So it doesn't matter if you're on keto, if you're on a low carb, moderate carb, high protein, you're gonna lose weight as long as you eat less than what you give out.
Yeah.
But different diets will affect you differently depending on your goals. So if your goal is wanting to build muscle, you would have to eat a lot of protein. Decent amount of protein, sorry.
Yeah.
So you can still lose weight by eating all carbs, all fats, no protein. But in terms of muscle building, you might have to rethink that approach.
Yeah.
Do you believe in if it fits your macros? To answer your question, to answer my question really, my views on if it fits your macros, it depends on what your goal is.
Yeah.
Definitely can work for weight loss, for muscle gain. Again, if you have the caloric intake, it's calorie in, calorie out, guys.
That's all it is.
That's all it is.
It's that simple.
However, do I like it? It will be no. Just because I'm a person of structure, I like structure. I like to do the same thing every day just so I know what's consistent. If everything's consistent and something goes wrong, I know what to tweak.
Yeah.
If you're constantly changing it up, like your diet, whether that's your diet or your training program, how do you know what's working? If you don't stick to it over a sustained period of time, how do you know if it's working? So how do you know what to change? What variables are there?
Yeah.
So that's my reason,
Yeah.
and it's a rather pedantic reason.
No, it lets you utilize the scientific method to check everything that you put into your body.
Yeah, 100%. And another reason, like you said, my goal is to be as healthy as possible. I want to live for as long as possible. I want to live for as long as possible. So I'm gonna just eat healthy stuff. I'm not gonna pump myself full of sweeteners or oils from foods, even though it might fit my macros. I don't need it. Or fill my carbs up with sugars. I just don't feel the need for it.
Yeah.
So that's my reason why I'm against if it fits my macros. Anyways, guys, we digressed just a touch, but I hope you learned more about us, our journey through food, how we developed our knowledge over time. Nothing's built overnight. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our video. Until next time, thanks.